Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Ms. Priyanka Singh. Ms. Singh is Program Lead at Council on Energy, Environment and Water, Delhi. She is an experienced professional with demonstrated history of working in environment research industry. Her professional journey includes roles as a consultant at Central Pollution Control Board and valuable contribution to Saahas Zero Waste. With focus on urban and rural solid waste management, Ms. Priyanka is dedicated to making meaningful strides in critical field. Today, Ms. Singh will talk on dispersed hyperlocal sources of pollution. So without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Priyanka.
So, as Darshana mentioned, my topic of presentation is hyperlocal dispersed sources of pollution. So, this is a very brief presentation where I'll be introducing the concept to everyone, right? So, I'm Priyanka. I'm representing an organization called Council on Energy, Environment and Water. And in this slide, I have a brief of my organization, what we do, and how we are placed. So our organization, Council on Energy, Environment and Water, is one of Asia's leading not-for-profit research organization. We are among the top climate think tanks in the world, and at the council, we are impacting sustainable development by using data, integrated analysis, and strategic outreach. So we have 15 focus areas, as you can see from the slide. So we almost cater to every aspect of the environment, and we have categorized these focus areas into three categories, which we call transformations, quality of life, and enablers. We are a team of almost 300 now. So this 250 plus means we are somewhere around 270. So it's a multidisciplinary team, and our work is available in the form of peer-reviewed publication. We have a huge presence in multiple conferences and roundtables. There are 4 special initiatives that our organization has, and these are placed at the bottom, one of which is called CEEW, Center for Energy Finance. We have Powering Livelihoods, we have Emerging Economies, and we also have a specific UP state office, which is our project office. Now, moving forward, let us understand what air pollution is. So air pollution is actually when in an atmosphere, so the literal definition is that when a substance causes some deleterious impact on the atmosphere, on the surroundings, like say for example, you can include human beings, or it has any kind of harmful impact on the climate, it is called as pollution in terms of air pollution. When we look at air pollution, there are pollution sources and there are pollutants. So when we talk about the pollution sources, there are 2 categories of pollution sources, one which are generated outside and one which are generated within the confined spaces. So the sources which are generated outdoors, they're called as sources of outdoor air pollution, and these include the major critical ones like power plants, brick kilns, transportation, open waste burning. And the sources of indoor air pollution, while it might not be very visible to everyone, while a tobacco smoker will think that it's the impact that he will have on himself, but he's actually polluting the environment. So there are sources of indoor air pollutions like domestic cooking using chulhas and solid fuel. There is dust, which when we do the brooming, this emanates, and that is also source of indoor pollution. So this is some categorization that I wanted to highlight before we move further with the actual definition of hyperlocal dispersed sources of pollution. Now, what do these pollution sources generate? So these harmful substances that cause the harmful impact on human beings, they are categorized into, there are the basic ones I have put in here. There are many others, but yes, the first one, they can be in the form of particles. They can also be in the form of pollutants. So the first one is called as particulate matter, which we famously known as PM10, PM2.5. Then there is carbon monoxide, there is lead, there is nitrogen oxide, there is ground level ozone, there are oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, and then there are volatile organic compounds. Moving on to what type of pollution, why are what kind of impact do they have on human beings. So we mentioned sources, we also mentioned pollutants. Now what do they cause? So the sources, like construction sites, unpaved road, they generate, and solid waste burning, they generate PM 2.5, PM 10, which gets into our lungs and they cause respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. Now the vehicular emission, industrial emission, and thermal power plants, they are sources of oxides of nitrogen, which cause irritation of eyes, nose, and then they also cause respiratory, so forth and so on. There are industrial emissions, there are industrial and vehicular emissions generating O3, and then there are vehicular emissions. So if you're not using clean fuel, then you are exposed to lead. So, and then there are biomass burning that also generates carbon monoxide. So all of these almost, have harmful impact on all of the body, like all organs of the body. Now coming to the main topic of hyperlocal dispersed sources of pollution. So in my third slide, when I talked about the sources of pollution, they are the known sources, but their scale is a little different across the city and within the outskirts of city, right? So you know that solid waste burning is one of the source of pollution, outdoor source of pollution, but uh, hyperlocal dispersed sources of air pollutions are different, from the main sources of pollution in terms of being comparatively smaller. So they are generally missed. So a person who is having a direct impact will treat that as a pollution and then raise kind of a complaint to the respective authority. They are very short-lived. They are generally unregistered, like people don't generally know about them, and they are dynamic in nature. Like they keep on changing in terms of location, in terms of timing, in terms of nature of the generation. And why we are talking about them? Because they are not general. You won't find their reference in scientific research studies. Like there is a study called a source apportionment study, wherein within a geography you can know that if we are talking about the ambient air pollution, then what contribution is coming from what type of source, and similarly emission inventories. So they tell you the emission inventory is nothing but the listing of all the pollution sources generating different type of pollutants in a particular area. Now, this, as you know, that air is not restricted by boundaries, and this has the tendency to move from one place to another. So, and this moving from one place to another is called as dispersion. So this dispersion of these sources, this might not be very long range. Like they might actually travel to a very small place, but their immediate exposure, like say for example, one of the example that I can take is a person sitting next to a small bonfire which has not so clean, like say for example, waste. In winters, when you go to when you see guards, sometimes they even use along with wood and coal, they also use some plastic waste, right? So there are fumes which are coming out which are harmful and they have pollution. So while it might not travel very long, but the immediate exposure is even more harmful than the impact that it will have on the ambient air quality. Now hyperlocal dispersed sources of pollution, when they are standalone, they might not have impact on the larger ambient air quality of a city. But when they are, so in what we see in our cities, they're present in large numbers. So if we combine their impact, they contribute significantly to ambient air quality. So these are some of the characteristics of hyperlocal dispersed sources of pollution. And the irony is that they are not really talked about a lot. We mainly know the main culprit, but we don't really talk about the general local pollution that is happening around us. These are the kind of sources that I was talking about. These are the hyperlocal sources of pollution that I was talking about. Now, how we can, I think from our speakers, we'll get to know that while being indoors, we can also do something about these sources, because these sources just do not remain outside, and then they tend to have impact on the inside of our spaces. Like, say for example, a construction going on in your vicinity, you will feel that, I mean, definitely you can feel, if you have an air quality monitor at your home, then you can also see that if a construction is going on and without any control measures, uh, you can feel and you can observe that the air quality within your confined space is also deteriorated. So that's why we should also talk about these small sources which are everywhere around us. So with this, I would like to conclude, and this is the introduction that I wanted to give. Thank you so much.